Dr. Karen Corbin is a storytelling scientist who realizes how critical it is that the general public, us, understand science, especially in the midst of a pandemic. Her talk is around finding scientific truth in a sea of chaos. Let me welcome to the stage Dr. Karen Corbin. Hi, Karen.
I've been in the fields of science and medicine for almost half my life. In normal times, if I was on a stage right now, I'd be talking about science geeky stuff like the gut microbiome, mostly to scientists. In normal times, I wouldn't have pictured myself on a stage like this one because I wouldn't believe that my voice could be used to change the world outside the walls of science. But in case you haven't noticed, we are not in normal times. Today, more than ever, we have science in our faces all the time. Positivity rate, asymptomatic transmission, antibody test. We've all been enduring this pandemic, no matter our opinion of it. And you may be wondering how I have dealt with it. Well, apparently not very well, because I have been screaming silently inside as I have watched with horror the way science is being misused, ignored, and politicized. That horror has turned to anger because politics has stolen science from us. How did we get here? I mean, I feel like I'm living in a really, really bad reality show. The way science has been taken hostage is costing lives every day, everywhere. Have we ever gone to one of those COVID-19 trackers? I have. You can watch the number of deaths and see the numbers going up. Tick, tick, tick. Ignoring science has consequences. I'm embarrassed to tell you this because you're going to think to yourself, here's another Karen with her snooty opinion. Well, the reason I've been screaming silently to myself is that I thought the main reason for poor choices and uninformed decisions was stupidity. I mean, how else can you explain why people are allowing politics to trump science? Well, I was wrong about this, and we'll come back to this in a moment, and I'll share what I've learned. But first, I want to tell you about my obsession with science because I think it may help us out of this mess. I fell in love with science at an early age. As a young girl, I didn't have any science mentors and didn't see very many people like me going into science. Yet somehow I still had actual dreams of wearing a white coat and discovering things, whatever that means to a kid. Over time, science became my safe haven, a place to make sense of the senseless. This has been fantastic for me because I make no sense. You see, I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, to the name Karen Davidowitz. Yep, you heard that right. Nobody on that island had that name or could even pronounce it. So I started life not even knowing there's a box somewhere that I'm supposed to fit into. That naturally led me to think differently and act differently. I'll admit, I pretty much use science for everything in my life, both in and out of the lab. But like with all love stories, there's something about science that really bothers me. Failure. I don't like to fail. Do you like to fail? I mean, yes, I know failure is part of the scientific method, and I think it's written in my job description somewhere, but that's not what I'm talking about. My weird brain thinks that we could actually fail more efficiently if we focus less on science that is appealing to funding agencies or will get us splashy publications and instead come together to solve the most pressing issues of our time. This inefficient failing used to be what bothered me the most about being a scientist. So in normal times, I use my voice and experience to help other scientists become powerful storytellers so that we can get to solution faster by busting down the barriers that have prevented us from making progress in things that we all care about, like cancer and climate change. But in these not normal times, we do not have the luxury of time. We need solutions right now, and failure is not an option. So that's why I'm here, as an advocate as much as a scientist. I believe everyone has the right to access scientific truths, and I think I can help with that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm taking back my safe haven from politics and sharing it with you so that you can use it to deal with all this madness through the lens of a scientist. Because the question I've been asking myself is, what would happen if we push science out of the dark corners of labs like this one and put it into the hands of those who want to use it to make informed decisions? Oh yeah, remember when I said that I was originally screaming to myself because I thought the main reason behind poor choices was stupidity? I was wondering, why is this happening? So I dug into the science, and what I learned is that I was wrong, and I hate being wrong. We're not stupid. We are drowning in manipulated misinformation. What I mean is, every time we click on something on social media, there's an algorithm in the background somewhere that decides the content that we'll see in the future. I found 2 different studies from scientists at Stanford, Yale, and the University of Wisconsin. And their basic conclusion is that this manipulation is shrinking our world because more and more will be exposed to content that lines up with what we already believe and makes us happy instead of getting the whole picture. And if the information you're fed is misinformation, it'll be so nicely packaged that any reasonable person would think it's real. So I can't help you with the psychology or fancy marketing of misinformation, but I can help you with the biggest driving force behind science confusion, a lack of critical thinking. Before we dive into critical thinking, I need to clear a major misconception about science. And I'll do that by sharing this moment. I was in graduate school, finishing up, talking to a couple of my friends. And I was talking about how terrifying it would be to publish something that could be wrong. So I said, what more should I do to make sure I'm drawing the right conclusions? My friend Shauna shared a profound epiphany that should be on a t-shirt. She said, you can't worry about that. Just remember, it was true at the time to the best of my knowledge. Newsflash, science does not have all the answers. It is a process of discovery that evolves as we learn more. Now that we cleared that up, then next time you hear a scientist change his or her mind, cut us some slack because we're doing exactly what we're supposed to do. So the mechanics of critical thinking can start now because we have that cleared up. Let's say you see this interesting post on whatever your favorite social media platform is, and it says, miracle cure for COVID-19. Okay, that got my attention. Did it get your attention? So your gut instinct might be to go share that with someone so that you could tell everybody, yes, we're almost out of this madness. Wait. What if instead you use the 3 truth filters that I use to try to wrap my mind around COVID-19 or anything else I want to understand better? The first truth filter is the source, and it's the most important. Here's why. Have you ever heard an ad for a product that's clinically proven to do something? That immediately makes me, the science geek, want to rush out and find the publication that backs that up. Have you ever tried that? Give it a shot and let me know if you find a reasonable publication. But this makes sense because if everything clinically proven were true, we would all have perfect skin and live forever. So when I see the interesting post on social media, the first thing I do is look for guidance from reputable people and organizations. Then I go directly to the source where discoveries are reported, the peer-reviewed scientific literature. So if we were doing that right now, I would be downloading that paper and setting it aside because we have 2 more truth filters. The second truth filter is reproducibility. Are multiple groups of scientists saying the same thing? This is kind of like detective work. I guess maybe that's why my title at work is investigator. The idea here is to look for studies that maybe used a similar medication or looked at a similar virus to get the context around this discovery to see if it makes sense. When science is on the right track, you will see trends of agreement and the field starts moving in a similar direction. So now we get to the real science geek stuff. We need that paper we downloaded because the final truth filter is to evaluate the methods that were used to derive that evidence. I know you're probably glazing over right now and thinking this is way too much geek for me. Okay, stay with me. The methods are really important because they're the key to deciding whether information is credible and aligns with what the headlines are trying to tell us. So for this miracle new medication, what I would do is look at the population that was studied, the tests that were done to see if the medication is actually doing anything. I would ask whether that medication is being compared to the right thing. And finally, I would look at statistics, which I know sounds even more boring. But here's the thing. Statistics are the only way to really know if the findings are real or happening by chance. Look, I know that going through these truth filters sounds scary and maybe a little exhausting, but don't stress yourself out. This is why you need science-based organizations or your friendly neighborhood scientist to help you. But I don't want you to underestimate yourself. I recently reconnected with a high school friend who's a firefighter. He's young, a husband, father of an adorable toddler, and a cancer survivor. I have been so impressed at how deep he has gotten into the science of cancer and firefighters so that he can advocate for solutions to this important problem. He calls himself a closet scientist. You know what? We need more closet scientists like him to join an army of citizen scientists to fight misinformation through a culture of critical thinking. Don't get me wrong. I am thrilled that science has invaded our lives. Nothing is a better driver for positive change. One way to maximize the power of science is to amplify the voices of trained experts. But until we can drown out the noise from uninformed opinion leaders who simply want to spin an agenda, we can be part of the solution through one simple mindset: curiosity. The next time you see that snazzy post, think to yourself, interesting, let me learn more. Go to credible sources, look for trends, use common sense, and maybe even wait for more information to come out. If we all take the time to critically think about information before rushing to a conclusion and shouting it off the social media rooftops, we can help save ourselves from the dire consequences of science confusion and get some normal back into our days. Welcome to my safe haven, where I may still scream silently on occasion. I invite you to join me there. Thank you.
Yay, Karen, that was fantastic. And I, for one, am so appreciative of everything that you do. And in the chat, there were a number of women saying that CNN and MSNBC should start calling you because you need to be on air telling people the truth about science. So
I've always wanted my own show.
You may be on your way. Well, thank you, Karen.